Zach just quieted coyotes? Oh. Can you hear that? Is he gonna die? Should we get him? Zach! Dude, what the f***? Happy bachelor party.
Hey, Tom.
Hello, Patrick.
What you just heard, everybody, was the sound of coyotes, real wildlife coyotes. And that was just one of like several dozen things that were spectacular about Tom's wedding, which is the first time we're recording since that happened. Tom is no longer in Hawaii. It's been several months. And here we are.
Several months. It's been about 3 weeks.
I was going to say, it feels like we haven't put an episode out in several months.
For real, it does. Yeah, I'm back. I am tanner than ever. Just kidding. Actually,
Put it in the show notes. There's no mailbag today. I had trouble getting through 3 weeks worth of mail to even get from my bed to where we record. But I guarantee you there's going to be some how tan is Tom after his wet honeymoon mail. So
I actually smothered myself in SPF 50, and when I was at the beach, pretty much had a blanket over my shoulders and a big floppy straw hat on. So largely untouched by the sun. I look almost no different, but that's how I like it because my Irish skin cannot handle that hot Hawaiian sun.
You are a pale boy at the end of the day.
Yeah. You know what's funny? I have super tan legs and my face is pretty tan because that's all that sees the light during work, but the rest of me is a ghost. So
you hide that from the world like a good Irish Catholic. Hide it. But yeah, let's start from the beginning. Just walk us through the week before and then us getting there, and maybe I'll tell a little bit of the tale and tribulations and trials of trying to even get to Vermont in the first place. But
oh my God.
You got there several days before I did.
Yeah, we were there a week ahead of time.
To where again?
To Vermont.
Set the scene for Matt.
Yeah.
Actually, we might have been, Matt is from Montreal, right? Or Matt is
Vancouver.
He's from any Canadian city we need him to be from, really. But he could have just driven down if he's just in Montreal. It's kind of mean of him that he didn't.
I know. God.
SMDH, shaking my damn head.
Right before we left, it was very hectic. We had nothing packed up until about 3 hours before we were supposed to go to the airport. We didn't even have...
And let the world know that you guys totally were aware you were getting married on this particular week. So that was... I'm just going to stop you right there and say you could have been a little more prepared for this particular part.
We were buying luggage the day of. So.
Okay, that's a glaring clerical error, I feel like. So you guys got to get yourself a secretary.
And even worse than that was 2 hours before we leave, Megan looks at me and goes, "Do we need any documentation in order to get a wedding license?"
Again, I'll stop you right there. That's another huge part of it. And the fact that you guys were sitting here and you are married, just from the start of how this is going, it is already a miracle.
Well,
but
don't
it gets
spoil
better.
it, Matt.
I know. I'll let you roll from here. But those are two big ones right off the bat.
Right. So we realized we need birth certificates, and of course she can't find hers. So that was the beginning of all the mayhem. Eventually her mom was able to bring an extra one from Virginia. And the funniest part of all that, we went to the county clerk and we signed a paper with our names and parents' names and stuff, handed it in, and Megan goes, "Do you need to see our IDs or birth certificates?" And she goes, "Nah, it's Vermont." So,
Vermont is the craziest place that might not actually exist, and we might have been sleeping the whole time.
They didn't ask even to see our IDs
There's no rules
to prove that we are who we said we are.
Vermont is a place where dreams can happen for anyone, I feel like.
So, yeah, we were kind of all over the place to begin with. But we got to Vermont. The plane rides were easy. We traveled what seemed like forever. We had a really long layover. We left at midnight. We got to Philly at 3 a.m., had a 4-hour layover, then got there at like 1 or noon. And I was promised that we would have an easy day the day that we got there. So I took it on myself to edit a podcast that day. And keep in mind, it's now 1 PM and we haven't like really slept at all, And all of a sudden, Megan and her dad are like, you know what, let's do a bunch of stuff. So then we were like driving all around the city doing stuff, like going to gardens and nurseries to get flowers. And I don't think I've ever been that tired in my life. And I was the crankiest boy you could have ever met. So just the start, it was a rough start for sure. But we had a good time in Vermont. It was beautiful. We got a lot of stuff done. And I think the process of doing the wedding stuff was really exciting because since it's so far away from where we live, we couldn't really do anything before we got there. So there's a lot to do. And that part was really exciting. If you want to fast forward to, I guess, the day before the wedding, that's kind of when all the families arrived, and it turned into any romantic comedy based on a wedding where everything goes wrong, kind of. There were families fighting, the bride crying at the rehearsal dinner. There was just everything. Like, it was like a Ben Stiller movie. It was chaos, to say the least.
Sure. Everybody there was Ben Stiller, though. There was no like other family that got out of it scot-free and looked good. It was just like, imagine Meet the Parents, but everybody involved is playing the Ben Stiller character. And they're just very unsure of themselves and kind of upset and never comfortable.
And this whole time that this is happening, I'm texting Pat, who was supposed to already be there, but where were you, Pat?
Philadelphia, which was not the intent, for sure. No, I don't. I'm not. I'll keep this short because I don't want to steal the thunder of your.
No, it's fine. I like it when I talk less.
In Cincinnati, we were just going to go to Chicago and then right up to Burlington and rent a car. But before we had even taken off in Cincinnati, they were like, "It's going to be about an hour delay here," and I guess there's some whatever stuff. I think they were having some scheduling and landing issues at O'Hare in Chicago, so that hour already put us too late into catching the connecting flight. So I guess while we were in the air, an hour after sitting on the tarmac, because it's only like an hour flight from Cincinnati to Chicago, but United had already booked us to the next, which I thought was actually kind of cool. I wasn't that mad about that, but we got on a plane to Philly and then got on a plane from Philly to Burlington, and then we got our car, but they lost our luggage. So Jesse had to stop by. We stopped at like this secondhand clothing store real quick and got like a dress shirt and like a little summer dress for like, whatever Salvation Army prices are. And we showed up at the rehearsal dinner just in time to be like only kind of late. Like they were still putting plates on the table. So we ordered and weren't too far behind everyone else. And then our bag got there by
the day of the wedding.
The day of the wedding, yeah. Around lunch, so a few hours before the wedding. But it was, was it as bad as it could have possibly gone? Yes. But now that it's over, it doesn't seem like that big of a thing. It was definitely the first, like I've never heard Jessie raise her voice while traveling. And she still didn't, but for some reason there was the wrong address in our group chat. It was the address for Megan's dad's house. We had gotten a rental car and drove to that house, which was near the ski resort. And we're like, this isn't a farm. This is on a hill. Like we were near a ski resort. And she was just like, Siri, navigate to it. It was bad. I still am mad at myself for finding that address. And I want to be mad at you, but I don't think I should be. I just don't know why that was the address that was in the group
chat.
The
thing that was so confusing was there were 4 different locations for that entire trip. At some point, I gave Zach the address because he showed up the day before at Megan's dad's place. You said you were looking for the farm, but we weren't even at the farm. We were at the rehearsal dinner place.
I know, but we still needed to go to the farm.
Okay.
Right? I mean, like, to say, I don't know. Like, we just had to, like, take a deep breath.
Sure. So, yeah, I don't know if you were reading an old address or whatever from whatever we discussed previously, because the rehearsal dinner thing came up pretty last minute for all of us. We weren't planning on having one. And then the bride's family insisted, which is what caused all the family stress because of the traditions that go around a rehearsal dinner and who pays for it. So y'all can imagine how that went. So yeah, you got there super late. I couldn't be any more apologetic. Not only were you sent to the wrong place, but then when you got to the rehearsal dinner, you then went to the wrong place within that place.
Oh yeah, that was icing on the cake. Like we got in, and like if we had turned one more corner, we would have been where everyone was eating. But some waitress, bless her heart, I guess is how people in the South might say it. Like, hey, we're looking for like a party, having a rehearsal dinner. And she was taking plates to yours. And she was like, well, there's like an event space in the back where we host weddings and stuff sometimes. So we're like, yeah, okay. And we walk back to their big area. And there's like a sign for like a wedding that's going to take place the next day. And we're like, it's empty, right? Obviously, no one is back there. So we go back and I call you. I'm like, just fucking walk out of the restaurant, Tom. I just need to know that this is real. This is like a weird, goofy nightmare. Anyway, we walked past that waitress into the room where you guys were all sitting and had a nice dinner with Zach and his lovely wife. And yeah, the weekend was pretty breezy from there. But
yeah,
it was long. We should have gotten there by 2 p.m. It was like 8:30 at this point, I think.
Yeah, it was kind of brutal. There were a lot of flight issues surrounding that wedding. My stepbrother was flying in from Wisconsin. He was supposed to be there at like 10 a.m. the day of the wedding. He got there at 4:02, and the wedding was supposed to start at 4. And
man.
I see him.
Do you know what he was flying through?
I don't. But I like saw him running through the parking lot as we're like waiting to line up to go down the aisle. We're waiting for the rain to stop, which is a different story. And
just jump to that, or
yeah, they had time
no, we
to catch
can't because we didn't talk about Zach howling at wildlife.
We didn't yet?
No, we're not even there. We're not even past the rehearsal dinner, Tom.
Oh my gosh. Well, let's fast
we gotta
forward
get this
then.
thing going. Yeah, we ate. It was a dinner.
Yeah, it was a dinner.
Like any other dinner you'd expect.
Sure. Except, wait, hold on. The waitress, no, this was kind of funny. The waitress kept forgetting to take Megan in my order. So like everyone had drinks before we had anything. Everyone had food before we had anything. And everyone had dessert before we had anything because they kept forgetting to ask us and then kept forgetting to give us our food once they had it. And I just thought that was like kind of ironic.
Right. Which if everything else hadn't already gone to you probably wouldn't have even noticed. But
right.
Usually when you're stressed, small stuff like that becomes like, it just makes the story a little juicier. But we get back to the farm, which is in the middle of nowhere with no service. And Jesse and I are on the phone trying to calculate where our bag is. And Vermont, I don't know, there's an episode we have, I think it's like episode 14 or something, Living Life in a Bob Ross painting.
Oh, right.
That's kind of what Vermont is. Like just being in Vermont, you're like, damn. And then we weren't there in the winter, so we didn't get to see the version of it that makes you like pay for the beauty. But yeah, it's very beautiful, but it's also it's in the middle of nowhere, right? Like if you're like, I'm going to pack it in for the next 40 years and just kind of hermit it up. I can imagine going to one of these Vermont towns that we passed coming home from the restaurant.
Right.
But the farm was beautiful for those reasons. And then you, Zach, and I went out to where you were going to get married. It was on this farm where you could probably describe it better than me, but there's a wedding venue or a reception venue, and they make some of the best pizza in the area. It's called Flatbreads.
American
Pappy
Flatbread.
McFlatbread's Pizza Parlor.
Which
is the official name. It's not.
Here is a clip from the night before the wedding. Oh. So I just want to introduce the listeners here. This is Tom, Pat, and Zach. What you just heard was the second full bottle of wine that Pat and Zach are drinking at the site where post marriage we will have our, what's it called? Reception.
Yeah. Yep.
Smoking some literal corn cob pipes.
Bought and smoked first time ever in Burlington, Vermont.
In Burlington.
So it's made its way home.
Yeah, keep it local.
I'm going to say that this was an impromptu bachelor party, but Tom doesn't really smoke or drink, which is super admirable. And we recalled a recent visit we had in Cincinnati that we talked about a few episodes ago, where we dressed up like Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer claymation characters and ice skated around Christmas time in the greater Cincinnati area, downtown area. And it was lovely and perhaps the most perfect, more celebration for what Tom was. So at the time, I didn't know that's what it was, but we did have a bachelor party of sorts, if you want to call it that.
And that's what it was.
It was great.
It was, yeah.
Yeah, we went out. There's like a pavilion on the site next to the inn where everyone was staying. And they set out all the alcohol that they were going to serve the next day. And of course, you and Zach found it.
You say like it wasn't exactly an expedition. It was just like in a crate near where we had just happened to sit.
Happened upon it.
That's right.
So yeah, 2 bottles were gone before the day of the wedding. We'll say that.
Ooh.
And maybe there was a corncob pipe involved.
Yes, there was, but it wasn't filled with anything nefarious. Zach just is that type of mountain man nowadays.
Just normal tobacco. I feel like you can't say that without it sounding like, oh yeah, just tobacco. But anyways.
No, that's the life Zach's living right now. Definitely, he is a lumberjack boy.
Like a real one?
Or would you just say lumber boy? Well, I don't know. Anyway.
He's a lumber boy.
Yeah, for sure. Living his best life.
But he's also kind of a Mason boy.
Ooh.
Lumber? Whatever. Anyways.
It's a debate for we'll do a whole episode. The lumber boy power hour. We'll do that next week.
So you guys are feeling pretty good at this point. And
we're a little tuned up. And then all of that out of nowhere, you heard at the beginning of this episode, I think I'm going to go ahead and out on a limb here and say that it was 2 rival gangs of coyotes having a territory dispute or spat of some sort. And you and I,
as soon as we heard it,
reaction was to move further from the sound of the howling.
We grabbed each other and ran away.
Yeah. And we turned around, it's kind of like a Scooby-Doo thing, like, where's Shaggy? Where's Zach? And he had sprinted in the opposite direction of us, that is to say, directly towards the rival gang of coyotes. And he just started howling, he let it rip. And he was really embarrassed the next day, but he got him to shut up and go away. So I don't know if he has studied the vocal patterns of migrant Vermont region coyotes or anything, but it seemed as though he spoke directly to them, that's for sure.
Yeah, it was pretty wild how I think the first time he howled, I don't think I got that on tape, so to speak, but they stopped immediately. It was kind of inspiring. It was crazy.
We were definitely out in it, dude. Vermont is, bleak's the wrong word, but out there. Yeah. I think out there is probably both in terms of the residents, how the towns feel and their layouts and how kind of meandering it all is, but also New England picturesque, but it's almost like a Stephen King thing where it's almost too picturesque at times and you're like, there's something going on here. I think Waterbury, there's an asylum I read in that book of New England legends, which New England is a f***ed up place. Too much witchcraft going on for my taste, I think. But either way, that kind of reminded me man, we're all going to die, I think. I think it's mostly how, there's no way we're going to make it to this wedding. And then the rain came. The day of the wedding, and it never stopped. It was beautiful the entire, 7 days we were there, except for that day. And that day was stressful because we woke up. We spent 4 hours figuring out how to tie a bow tie, which was just one of those things. Tom was like, thought it was going to be easier than this. It was mostly an aesthetics decision, and here we are an hour out, and we got to learn how to do it. So here we are.
And now here's a clip of us an hour before the wedding, cutting it very close, trying to learn how to tie a fucking bow tie. I get married in an hour.
Yeah.
It's pouring outside. Yeah. Just got a white shirt because I forgot.
It's a woman's shirt.
It's a woman's athletic t-shirt, but it's white.
It's a V-neck.
It's a V-neck, not very deep. I used to wear the deepest V's.
You're a deep V-boy.
But we're here eating some sandwiches unfortunately, we had to kick Pat's partner Jesse out of the room. And now it's just the groomsmen trying to learn how to tie a bow tie. And I thought I had it under control. It's not going, no. Anything you guys want to say? That was Pat. Zach is swallowing. Anything that wasn't said last night?
The mood is, I don't want to say tense, but the rain's coming down pretty hard. And I would say Tom is starting to realize he's about to get married, so it's a big thing. It's not a negative energy, but it's definitely they said we're heading towards the climax of the story of the tale here. So rising action is what we're.
The head is swelling.
Everything in my body feels like it's in my stomach, just below my chest. Mm-hmm. Getting some performance anxiety. I think I mentioned that last night. And
you got the vows printed out?
I do. I finally got the vows printed out. I'm I'm worried about getting confused because it's printed on a liner for the inn, and it's printed not only upside down but on the opposite side, so I don't really have anything to differentiate what's the front and what's the back, and I'm just imagining myself nervous as hell stumbling around trying to find starting in the middle of my speech or something, but I think it'll be fine. But we'll come back as a married man.
Yes.
And
you will be... Oh, yeah, we don't know what I'm saying yet when I introduce you.
I'll ask Megan. We don't know how we're getting introduced.
It's an important part of it. Introducing Mr. Kelly and Mrs. Anderson Kelly.
I think Mr. and Mrs. Kelly, even though she's hyphenating her name to Anderson Kelly, but I'll ask and we'll get it figured out.
A clerical error could ruin this thing. Sink this ship.
All right, we'll check back in.
Bye.
Bye.
See ya.
Well, booyah. Yeah, so this was the funny part for me anyways. Megan has 4 girls helping her get ready, and they take out the room that she and I are in. So then I'm like, where do I get ready? And like an asshole, I had to kick your fiance Jessie out of her own room so we can get ready in your room, and I still feel like I owe her something for that. I felt bad for sure. And I was also just like so aware that I am completely doing this alone. No one is helping me. And the only thought was like, why is there no adult here right now? I'm still a child. I can't be learning how to tie a bow tie before my wedding. I was just kind of like freaking out, and also the guilt of taking Jessie's room.
With that said, though, Zach and I were the best men, I guess you would say. So one of our rooms was going to need to be used to aid in your needs for the weekend, I guess, right?
Right. And we're putting on bow ties, and I practiced a few days beforehand, and it felt like, oh, this isn't that bad. And then, of course, the day of the wedding, I'm super stressed out and nervous, and everything just escaped out of my brain. And the 3 of us are trying to do it, and I can't quite get my head around what's going on. So I'm very unhelpful, maybe even harmful to the operation. And you were definitely visually getting more frustrated than Zach, perhaps. But you could tell he was like, dude, what the
Right. Because it was like it was close. It was getting real close.
It was about 40 minutes before we're supposed to like walk down the aisle, right?
Luckily, the rain delayed it by a good chunk.
Right. And also, before any of this happened, though, I realized I don't have a white undershirt to wear.
Yeah. Or dress socks.
Or a belt. Or dress socks.
Which, like, we started this episode saying, like, these are all, like, again, this wasn't like a surprise shotgun wedding. It was, like, super planned.
So, Pat, you're like, well, do you want to wear my undershirt? And I was like, oh, well, you need to wear it. You're like, well, let's see what it looks like if I don't wear it. And just seeing your nipples and chest.
I might as well have just arrived naked, for sure.
It was so funny. So Shane.
Luckily, your photographer / other very good friend, Shane, who's a lovely person.
Yeah. He ran out, got us some sandwiches, because I hadn't eaten, of course, that day. I was like, oh, I forgot to eat. So he gets me a women's athletic shirt, which did the trick.
Which actually Jessie spotted on the rack.
Oh, good job, Jessie.
It worked out.
Killer. So yeah, that all was fine. We got the bow ties tied, and then I forgot we had boutonnieres to put on. And
I hate boutonnieres. I've never not been poked, and it's never added anything to my experience.
We could not stop stabbing ourselves with those fucking things.
Although it probably got the best photo of the wedding because Shane had like used Zach and I putting pins on each other.
Yeah.
With you in the middle of like in the that's not the foreground, the opposite, the background.
It was the background with the focus, I think.
He caught you reacting to me getting jabbed particularly hard.
Like laughing.
And the joy on your face watching me suffer was palpable.
Oh God.
Yeah.
I'll see if I can get that photo.
It's going to be a good photo. And I don't have like a scar or anything because it's just a needle point. I hope you get that framed or something.
Yeah.
I bled for you. I bled for you.
So, we're at the wedding. It's raining. And our wedding planner goes, hey, we have to go with plan B. We're doing the wedding inside. And it was like some kind of weird like compliance thing where I was like, okay, but that just seemed like a nightmare to me. And I was like telling everyone like we're doing the wedding inside when like the reason we went to this venue was for the outside ceremony place. And we didn't know that all the decorations we put up for the ceremony outside, they then removed and put inside. So a little bit of time goes by and everyone's like, dude, don't do it inside. Like, you want to do it outside. Tell her you're doing it outside. Like, if it's just you, Megan, and your officiant, that's all that needs to be there. Tell her you're doing it outside. So we did. We're like, dude, no, like, we're doing it outside. And
everyone was kind of wandering around like, what? And then word from the bride's room came down like, no.
right. The official message from the bride's room. I love that.
And it was like, I guess we're doing it outside. It's like, yeah, I guess we are.
So we get all the umbrellas. We're walking out there. It's raining pretty bad at this point.
It's calming down, baby. One of those classic Vermont rains you hear all about.
So, but yeah, it delayed it enough for my stepbrother to get there on time and for some things to get sorted out. So some people were not happy we were doing it outside, but as Shane told me, F them, it's my wedding. Like, they don't have to go if they don't want to. So yeah, we did it. It ended up being a very nice, very short ceremony, which is what I was hoping for. And
bless your grandmother who made it. We walked her down, and then your mom's fiance walked her in. And as I was coming back with the umbrella after walking your grandma down with Zach, Megan's mom was like, wait, who escorted Tom's mom? And I looked back over the field of people just like getting soaked in no particular order, walking towards the seats that were too wet to get sit on. I was like, yeah, I think you're just gonna, I think we're past escorts, dude. Like, which I get that she like wanted to be formal about it, but I'm like, this is, why don't you just walk forward towards the chairs? That's probably
the only person that was escorted was my grandma, who is usually in a walker. So.
Right. The escort was more of just like making sure she survived the trek, I think mostly.
Right. That I wanted to scream because we were like waiting to walk down and she was just standing there. I want to be like, sit down. Like, this is not a formal wedding in any sense. Like, nothing that is formal has been done to this point. It will continue to not be formal. And no one was sitting down. They had to stand because the benches were soaked. So super, super duper frustrating. But yes.
Then like a calm washed over everything when Zach started playing
God.
I'll Follow You Into the Dark by Death Cab for Cutie.
Dude, that ripped my heart into shreds, man. It was even more perfect than I thought it would be. Everything really slowed down. And what people told me throughout all of this was, do your best to like just be present. Keep reminding yourself to like, don't think about anything other than what you're looking at and what you're feeling at that exact moment. And I'm really glad that people said that, because I could feel my mind starting to wander of like, Zach, or you weren't there for the rehearsal, so you didn't really know what was going on. I mean,
no, I was in Philly.
So we never really got the pacing down of like how long it would take, how it would fit with the song. So he was just kind of winging it on the timing, and I know he was stressed about it. Like, what if it ends too soon and there's silence? What if it goes too long? And I was just like, Zach, you're going to nail it. Like, this is you playing bands that just improvise everything, you know? Like, it's going to be fine. Stretch it if you feel like it's going to end too soon. And Megan's walking down the aisle. I started crying the second I saw you walk down the aisle. You were the first person to come after me, and I just lost it immediately. It was raining, and it was like weirdly emo and dramatic and beautiful.
It was a My Chemical Romance music video in the making for sure.
And Zach's singing I'll Follow You Into the Dark. For like a split second, I was like, should I try to harmonize with him? And I was like, I'm not in a state to do that right now. So you come down and Megan comes down, and I'm just like, oh my God, dude. Like, she looked perfect, right? It was beautiful. The whole
she looked beautiful, yes.
Yeah, it was really, really incredible. And
she's kind of the flower child, Nettles lady, so it was perfect. Kind of. I know your minister killed it. He had everybody just listen to the rain for a few seconds to start everything off. And everything that had been, I don't even want to say go wrong, because we were all there for it. So, I mean, at the end of the day, it was still happening and it was still gorgeous, but we all just kind of looked at the Green Mountains of Vermont, and we were just, probably on the turf that was in dispute by the coyotes earlier that night, the other day, but it was ours for that moment, which was cool. I mean, it was picturesque rain, just like big, good, drenching summer rain, and you could hear it hitting the leaves. And Zach had he like elongated the bridge of the song by a few measures, and then started to sing the chorus right when she hit the aisle.
It was dude, I got
flawless.
I got chills right now thinking about it. It was perfect. And the second she stood there and held my hand, it ended.
He played the final chord.
It was perfect, dude.
Right. And then the minister killed it. He was wearing this like loose fitting, all white hippie garb. He had a big mustache, one of the Andrews, which big long hair, and it wasn't too long, too short. You ripped up your vows. And I don't mean like you didn't rip them and run. You like did well. Brought the house down. You were worried about it, but you shouldn't have been.
Yeah, we had a phone call a couple days before because I was like, Pat, I think these are bad.
Which they weren't. They just fundamentally were not. So.
Oh, well, thank you. But yeah, and I am not coherent of this fact, but I was told that the second we kissed, the rain stopped. And it stopped for a couple hours after that. I did notice that it was done at some point. I didn't realize that was the defining moment, I guess. But my dad was...
I can neither confirm or deny.
My dad was
I was
it was
pretty in a
magical.
moment with everybody. Yeah. Hey. That there's no reason that couldn't be true, for sure. I was distracted by the fact that you kissed and people just like left and started walking back towards the pavilion. And Megan's mom was like, what?
Oh, dude, yeah. So that was so
like there wasn't
weird.
even any exit.
It was so
procession.
weird. So we were supposed to walk down the aisle, right? Everyone at the wedding party.
Right.
And then everyone follows us.
And then it's over, like every other wedding that's ever happened.
Right. So Megan and I walked down the aisle together. And the second we passed her uncles, they got up and started walking immediately behind us. And then that confused people. So then everyone got up and just started walking as the bridal party was walking back to the venue.
Right. Yeah, it was. And so that we had like 8 minutes of bliss, and then it went right back to being kind of a show.
Right. And like our wedding planner wasn't like, I feel like she was very hands off. Like she wrote our whole schedule, but like we didn't have a copy of that schedule. So then I was the whole time just like, what are we doing? What's happening? Like, what's next?
I think she was hands off when it was like, it was her recommendation to do it inside. And then they were like, no, we're doing it outside. So she was like, okay,
all right, this is your wedding, guy.
This is, yeah, well, it's not like, it wasn't that dismissive because she was still there partaking. She was like, she's seen this before, and then you guys went and did your photo shoot and all that with the bridal party. And yeah, she was definitely hands off, but it was definitely, I could see the tone change from like, hi, what would if we did this inside because the act of rain that's falling? And you were like, nah, we're not going to do that. So she was like, okay, this will be whatever you want it to be, but not like in a mean way, just like, all right, so, but also the people that it's not her fault that the uncles got up and walked back. Like they should have a fucking clue. I mean, that's on them, I think.
Well, they also kind of ruined the whole, we were supposed to have this like receiving line where we're supposed to like stand there and everyone as they're coming back is supposed to like greet us. And I didn't want that because I thought that sounded weird, but the wedding planner was like, if you do that, then you won't spend the whole reception having everyone come up to you to talk to you for the first time.
Right.
And that's what it turned into. It was us like entertaining largely people we didn't know.
Right.
Which again, could not be more unhappy about.
Mm-hmm.
But anyways, what I forgot to mention, I kind of hinted at it earlier. They removed all of the decorations that we paid like a lot of money for to be at the ceremony site. They removed it and then didn't put them back when we decided to do it outside. So like, Pat, like $1,000 of flowers are not in a single photo because they were just kind of pushed to the side in the reception site.
Damn. Do you still you get your money back or?
Well, it's not the florist's fault, The florist was another thing. She f***ed everything up, dude. Absolutely everything. Oh my God. But anyways, the reception was a little weird because it was like, I didn't really know what was going. The wedding planner who, I'll give her the fact that she was 8 months pregnant, wasn't super helpful, I felt like. And I wanted to go over my regrets for the reception, because Megan and I kind of treated it like, after a sports game, the team goes back through and like watches the tapes and talks about what they could have done differently. We kind of did that the night after the wedding, and there's quite a few regrets here.
Okay.
So my first regret was the first dance was a little weird. I don't like being a spectacle like that. So I kind of talked through the whole thing, just like nervous chatting. And Megan was like, stop fucking talking. And I couldn't. I just could not stop talking. So I was like, this is so weird, right? This is so weird. So that, like, right out of the gate was just kind of awkward. So maybe I would say don't have I don't know. I kind of wish we didn't have like the formal first dance, because it was just kind of weird to me. Also, if I could do it again, I wouldn't have you and Zach announce us for the very first time. That was something the wedding planner told us to do. And to me, it felt so weird and forced, because we were already like in the building with people, and then we walked out and then walked back in. It was like kind of awkward, right?
Well, we should preface all of this with the MC didn't show up.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, the MC wasn't there.
So I filled in, it was my pleasure and my honor to do that. But yeah, you guys were doing your photos, and I was supposed to announce you when you were coming back from the photos. But then I turned around and you guys were just there talking to your family, which is fine. But it was like, oh, okay, so they're in the pavilion now. Cool. And then, I don't know, I was just kind of chatting with Helen, the wedding planner, like, you got to help me out here, man. Like, I don't know what I'm doing.
Yeah.
I'm the backup's backup. And so you guys left, and Zach and I announced you, which is like a normal thing. It was fine. People got to cheer, and it was good, I think.
I feel awkward about it for some reason.
Well, yeah, you just said you don't like being a spectacle, and it was like, hey, everyone look and cheer in that direction. Like, that's why you felt weird about it. But it was normal. It was fine. It was good. Yeah. I feel bad for missing the rehearsal, but I feel like that should have been probably talked about. Like, you guys are going to come back from the photo thing, and then we're just going to, and then when you re-enter the pavilion, you get announced. You get announced as Mr. and Mrs. Kelly, which was also not technically accurate, because she's going to hyphenate the name.
Right. So that was a weird thing of like, how do you say, whatever.
But I think it went well. The dance went well.
Well, okay. The thing about the dancing is I forget that most people need some time and some drinks in order to get on the dance floor. So I made the mistake of front loading all my favorite songs to the, very beginning, thinking like, oh, there's music, people are going to want to dance. It turned out to just kind of be me and Megan dancing like kind of alone, as people just sat there and watched us. And I had this.
There was a few. There was a dozen.
Well, no. It started out super slow. Oh my God, this lady we didn't know, older lady, was kind of wasted and just, oh God.
She kept snapping those cameras that take the printable Polaroids. She was just like, cheese, just pointing at walls and shit. Like she was hammered. It was fucking incredible. But then Lee, the best matron of honor, was grabbing, just like total, like she might be the MVP of the whole damn wedding.
Grabbing, because those photos cost like $1.50 every exposure, and she was just running around using all the fucking film.
It was incredible. She's a legend. Both the old lady that was drunk and Lee, like they're both.
Yeah, Lee's fucking killed it. Yeah, so the dancing was weird, and we had a conversation. I think it was actually in context of making your own playlist. You were like, what, you don't like these Taking Back Sunday deep cuts? Why is no one dancing?
Right.
And I thought I just had a playlist full of bangers in there, and it didn't seem to be the music that people wanted to hear. So
that was a risk you took by not having a DJ, which saved you a good amount of money.
A lot of
still
money.
Danced.
Right. And then the biggest regret, the absolute biggest regret, there was a lot of discussion about this, was letting people request songs, because I figured it was a feature on the website that we made, and the old people wouldn't even know how to navigate it. Well, the old people are the ones who requested the most songs, and they all sucked. And not only that, everyone requested like at least 5 songs. So there's like 10 hours of like bad music, in my opinion anyway, that you can't really dance to, I guess. And just me trying to be nice, because it's Megan's dad's friends. Of course, Megan's dad and her mom paid for the wedding. So I'm like, I'll I'll give him some songs that he would like and that his friends would like because his friends travel there and they're probably going to be the ones giving us money, right? They were all gone by the time all of their songs came on, or they weren't even dancing. So then there was like this weird period where I was like, I'm going to put all these songs into a pile. All the old people can have their time, and then it's back to our stuff. And then no one danced. And then all the younger people were like, oh, what's with these weird songs? So then it was just like what ended up being like 10 minutes of like no one dancing with these weird songs playing. And I'm just like, oh my God, dude, what am I doing? Like, this is so awful. And it like totally killed the mood. But then when the songs came back on, it seems like everyone maybe drank quite a bit to get through those couple bad songs. And then the party kind of came alive. And everyone, it seemed like, was dancing. Say Anything came on. There's a really good video of Megan and I skanking to that song. And that's a good memory. And probably the best part of all that was they had to kind of pull the plug at 10 o'clock because they couldn't have amplified music after 10. And when the lady turned the music off, people started chanting one more song. And then out of nowhere, I don't know who started it, a group of like a dozen people started singing Everybody, the Backstreet Boys song, and sang probably up to the first verse. And literally the next song in my playlist was that song. And no one knew that. But it just happened to be, they just all randomly started singing the song from the late 90s. That was kind of magical to me. And I think what you said, because I expressed my concern about the playlist, I think it was you that said, if everyone's dancing and requesting one more song at the end of it, that's what they'll remember. And he did a good job. So,
yeah.
Yeah, so that was all that was a little weird. I mean, but it was fine.
There was a little dead time, dead air.
Yeah.
Like, you guys went and took your photos, which is supposed to happen. And, Lee went and put her phone up on the amp and played some piano music just so there was something in the air, So there's another MVP moment for her.
Oh, that's right, because we forgot we had to have music playing during the...
Right. So you guys went and took your photos, and, there was just like, it took us a little while to get into it, but once we, like you said, once we hit, the speeches and the dead zone, and after that, it was just utter magic, It was just like any wedding. I don't know. It's like the ceremony was great, and the end part of the reception was great. So those are the only two parts that matter. So I would say it went off without a hitch, I think.
Okay. I feel like everything went wrong, but I think all in all, I had fun. I think
for everything going wrong, you still have a very memorable, dancey end to the reception and one of the most memorable ceremonies ever. So if you went going and be like, hey man, there's going to be some hiccups, but the reception and ceremony are both going to be magical in their own way, then you would have probably going into that been like, cool, that sounds good. Yeah, I'll make that deal.
Yeah, I guess so. But yeah, so...
Am I trying to make you feel better about it? Yes. But I had a great time. I think everybody else... I mean, the setting was so picturesque, it was hard to get wrong. There's like literally a babbling creek right near the bed and breakfast we were staying in. So, and what more could you ask for?
I think my favorite part of the whole thing was like all my friends and family are staying in this old, kind of decrepit inn, and there were many.
It had a character.
There were like so many general rooms for people to like, congregate or whatever, that like every time you went into a room, there was like people that you never thought you'd see together having fun conversations. And Megan's cousin's boyfriend bought his Nintendo Switch, so there was like a gaming room. And it was just kind of fun, all the drama aside. I thought it would be nice to make that happen more than just once. Like, maybe not, all the same people, but just like find a small inn, book it full of all your friends, and just kind of like hang out for the weekend. Like, I thought that was amazing. It was a lot of fun. There wasn't enough time to spend with everyone, which people warned me about. I knew it was going to happen, but like, I haven't seen my dad in a long time. I haven't seen my mom in a long time.
Yeah, it's nice to see him.
You and Zach.
Nice to hear too.
Yeah, it was just like there were so many people that I wanted to spend days with, and I literally had like one day with all of them. So,
well, you should visit them more.
Yeah, definitely. I'm definitely going to make that a priority, especially with my work schedule just changed yesterday. I am now working 3 days on, 4 days off at Tesla.
Nice.
So I want to use that time to definitely boost my podcast editing work, but also try to travel more to see the people I care about. There's pretty cheap flights out of Denver. So yeah, I think
you're not going to be able to visit those people if you move to Hawaii, Tom.
Yeah, that's the next thing. Our honeymoon could not have been more perfect. It was there. I mean, there were no hiccups except we flew from Burlington to Detroit to Seattle to Lihue, which is the main airport in Kauai. And when we got to the airport, they said our flight would not make it and we would get there like 2 days later. And we only had 6 days to begin with. So I was in the Burlington airport losing my fucking mind. It ended up our flight was just delayed 40 minutes, but our connections were only 45 minutes apart. Mm-hmm. So they were like,
which is standard.
They were like, you're going to miss your other flights, you know? But somehow, Pat, we ended up catching every flight, getting to Lihue on time, even though our plane was landing like 10 minutes after our next plane was boarding. And we sprinted. I mean, I'm still chafing from running through these two airports, sprinting with all of our bags to get, of course, to the farthest terminal from where we landed both times. But we made it. Somehow we fucking made it.
Nice.
I do have one regret I want to air right now. I got a Delta Gold card, which is a credit card, because I was told that there were some free upgrades involved. If you have one, you're like a preferred member or whatever. So we're on this flight with some pretty upgraded seats already, because again, my uncle bought the seats with some of the Sky Miles. So we are like, there's 4 tiers of seating, and we're on like tier 3. Tier 4 is first class. And I don't think there's much of a difference between tiers 1, 2, and 3, by the way. I might not spend the money on that in the future, but on the flight to Lihue, there were 2 empty first class seats as the doors were closed. So I grabbed a flight attendant and I was like, hey man, we're just 2 young, people, 2 young gold card members on the way to their honeymoon. Would you mind if we just take those first class seats? Just scoot up there, sit down, no worries. And he was like, oh man, congratulations. That's so awesome. Unfortunately, we're not allowed to allow people to change seats. It's something that you have to do before you get on the plane. And I was like, oh yeah, that's a bummer. I totally understand though. Not 20 seconds later, these kids from the main cabin run up, sit in these first class seats, and fly the whole way to Lihue. First class, getting hot towels, getting champagne, getting like the whole treatment. And I know that we didn't deserve those seats. We weren't entitled to them. But the whole time I was like, those are my fucking seats. Just like seething. Could not enjoy a second of the flight as I watched these kids put hot towels on their face, their dirty faces. A part of me was just like, I hope this fucking plane goes down, dude. I want to see the look of fear in their eyes as we all die. Like,
they had you could have walked up there and did what they did.
Well, a part of me wanted to be like, like tattle on them to the flight attendant, like, oh, bummer that someone else, just grabbed those seats. But like, I'm, want to think I'm above that. So I didn't say anything the whole time.
Plus you could have, there's nothing to tattle on. You could have done what they did. They just,
had the balls to do it.
Right, exactly. I mean, you could either always try to go through, and sometimes if it feels like you deserve, I don't know, not that you shouldn't cut in line and things like that, but I don't know. It's okay to bend the rules. If you guys went and just sat there just to see how it went, what's the worst that's going to happen? Like, it's kind of like scooting up to a better seat at a ball game. Like, if no one asks you politely to leave, which is the worst case scenario, there's no reason not to try sometimes if the stadium's empty.
Right. And, you always hear, like, ask for forgiveness, not for permission. And this could not have been better proof of that.
Which, depending on the circumstances, like, you shouldn't just always live your life
by that. Yes, Pat.
Like, you should generally have a code of morals if it's
right.
Seats on a
right. But for something like trying to upgrade your seats,
right.
relatively harmless to everyone.
I'm just
involved,
saying, right? I'm glad you didn't tattle on those kids because that would have been a new low for sure.
And when I say kids, I mean probably my age. I still feel like a kid.
Yeah. I'm just saying, the world's not conspiring against you. All of us control our own destiny to a certain degree. You know what I mean? I watched my dad for decades just play the victim because he tries to too over the top play by, this isn't how it's supposed to go. It's sometimes you just got to go grab it. And if it's a different seat, on a mode of transportation, perhaps the rules can be bent a touch, is what I think I'm trying to say. Like, you shouldn't just hate people that are trying shit out because they could have been told to go back to their seats with their tails between their legs too. I'm getting into some dad stuff now that I'm going to stop talking about. So anyway, you got to Hawaii, which is good.
Yeah, it was, well, I mean, so when we landed, it was really late at night. So we rented a Jeep Wrangler, which was a lot of fun. Never drove one of those before. And we drive to our Airbnb, which is adorable. Okay, so it was like, the house was like a cone, kind of. And the whole top was like a loft, which was our bedroom, like a big sectional couch and a TV, which, you know, we obviously didn't really use that much. But we get there and the place is cute. We can't see anything. So we just go to bed. And when we wake up, we go outside and we were both just like, holy f***. It was the most beautiful, like, the whole time I just kept saying, like, this place is fake. Like, this is like something an artist draws as the like ideal paradise, you know? Just the tallest, steepest, pointiest mountains all over the place, covered every inch of this island in trees. Kauai is called the Garden Isle, or the Garden Island. And the most color I've ever seen in my life, with all the different plants and trees. Fruit trees everywhere. The Airbnb we were staying at had like a lot of property, and there was a note saying, enjoy the fruit trees. And there were this tropical fruit that I discovered called Lychees, and they're like my favorite thing in the world. One morning we went out and we picked a mango and just kind of ate it for breakfast. And there are wild chickens and roosters everywhere, and wild pigs
ate those for breakfast.
Wild hogs that would come out and just kind of walk through the yard. And have you ever used an outdoor shower, Pat?
I think so.
Okay. That's all we had, was just an outdoor shower.
You mean like a source of water that's outside of a building?
Yeah, I mean, it was just like a shower head that was outside.
Yeah, well, it's very nice. It's very freeing, but also you're naked in public.
Right. And, you know, there was no one really on the property, so just being naked outside itself is kind of a treat. But like having really hot water with like a cool breeze going through, like it made showering incredible. Like I might put our shower head on the outside of our house, no matter who sees me. It was amazing.
It sounds like areas that are near beaches have showers on the outside of the house, so you can at least rinse the sand off.
Right. Yeah. But then there's usually one inside to take like the real shower. But this was it. It was only covered on 3 sides. So the other side was just open to this massive yard with all the trees and the chickens and stuff. Mm-hmm. So it was incredible. I loved that. I'm usually not a beach goer, but the beaches there were fun. There were, I think, like 100 miles or something of beaches, or maybe it was like 50 miles of beaches. It was all public beaches. So we tried to discover a few. We ended up falling in love with Hanalei Bay, spent a lot of time there, and we took a doorless helicopter tour of the inland because it's like so steep that like you can't like get there typically, you know? And we knew like there were waterfalls everywhere. You can see them from where we were. Waterfalls coming from the top of these mountains, coming down 3 separate waterfalls all the way to the bottom through all these trees, and it was beautiful. But we get in this helicopter, and the look on my face and like how wide my eyes were for the whole hour. Have you ever seen those videos of like blind babies that see for the first time? Like, that's kind of like what I imagined I looked like. There are so many waterfalls that most of them don't even have names. Like there's just so many coming out of these pure green, super tall mountains, and like rainbows everywhere because it's all the water's falling, you know? And we got to this point, which is like the crater from the volcano that originally created the mountain. And the whole thing was like waterfall from like 360, and we're flying in the middle of it, and we get pretty low into the mist. And there's a rainbow in a full circle around us that's following the helicopter everywhere we go. And it was like most of that ride is just indescribable. Going to the bottom, there's a place called Waimea Canyon, which is like the size of the Grand Canyon. But again, it's all green. It's all trees and waterfalls. So we go to the bottom of it to see how tall it feels. And we're just kind of hovering at the bottom of this canyon. And then he rips straight up. So then we can see see it from the top, and then he like dove back down like super fast. We're flying through this canyon. There's rainbows following us. We're going through like waterfall mist, and there's no doors on the helicopter, so you can see like everything. And it was just, I couldn't talk for like 2 hours after the ride because I was just like processing how perfect this place is. Again, it's like, it seems like fake how beautiful and perfect it is. And it was amazing. You know, we had some wedding money, and when we were first starting off, we're like, well, let's spend it conservatively, try to go home with some money so we can pay bills. And then we were both just like, we're going to have a honeymoon once. Let's do exactly what we want to do, and let's do it right. And I've never had so much fun in my life. I've never been so present in my entire life. Like throughout all the wedding stuff and the Kauai stuff, like I was only thinking about what was right in front of me. And it's probably the first time in my life I've ever done that for like, maybe ever, but especially like a long period of time like that. And it's just like really made me want to do life differently, kind of just really try to explore and enjoy it and get the most out of it. Yeah, it was just, it was crazy. And we're talking about wanting to move there. You know, a lot of the housing prices are similar to Denver. Like you can certainly spend more. We did see a $70 million house on the market, but we were thinking, you know, this is absolutely fucking paradise, and it's not always going to be a vacation if we lived here. There were the thoughts of like wanting to see my dad, and like as the parents get older, like do you want to be, you know, 6,000 miles away from them? All those thoughts. But I actually got like 3 more editing clients last month, one of them while I was on my honeymoon. So the money's getting there to where it's like, I don't even need to like move somewhere and try to find a job. I can just bring my job with me.
Which is your dream.
Which is absolutely the dream. So yeah, I mean, we were thinking about it, but either way, man, it's a place that I would like to try to get to every year, every other year. And I would love to try to go there with you, Zach, and all the ladies, like just rent a big house and try to do, you know, maybe not exactly what we did on our honeymoon because it was rather expensive, but it was a paradise, Pat. I don't know how else to describe it. I feel like something that needs to be experienced for sure.
Well, I'm glad you liked it.
Yeah.
It sounds very beautiful.
Yeah, it was.
You said it changed the way you want to live. Expand on that.
Well, you know, I've really been focused on like work and money lately, which is fine. I don't regret that because in order to live a, I guess, higher end lifestyle, quote unquote, you typically need some money to do that. So, but there hasn't been any like work-life balance for sure. So the first thing I did when I got home, a lot changed at Tesla while I was gone. More people got fired. I feel incredibly lucky to still have a job right now, but it is slowing down because a lot of salespeople got fired. So I approached my boss and was just like, hey, I need to only work 3 days a week. I want to work Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and then be off Sunday through Wednesday, essentially. And he was just like, sounds great. We'll start you doing that next week. And everything with like that.
Well, you probably still have a job because you're cheaper than full-timers.
Well, I mean, I'm still getting all the benefits. And I actually just signed,
that is nice.
I actually just signed Megan up for them now. So we have the best like healthcare, vision, and dental in the country for like pretty much close to nothing. It's dope. So that's why I don't want to like quit Tesla, but I'm definitely going to see how little I can work there because I make like 3 times as much doing the podcast editing. So my idea with this is if I have 4 days off, that'll give me a lot of time to, I mean, edit, you know, to make more money, which is good. But also if I can take that work with me, if I want to go see my dad for 3 days or 4 days, that's not an issue. Like I'm going to have a 4-day weekend every week. And again, I still basically work 7 days a week, but it gives a lot more flexibility. So I want to try to get more out of my life, just in like places I go, experiences, people that I see, try to make new friends. I contacted the B-Boy Factory yesterday to try to take some hip hop and breakdancing classes.
Ooh.
Yeah, just try to, rather than spend my money on stuff, which I do really enjoy, try to spend it on experiences because I think the amount of money that we had to spend just on that whole honeymoon is staggering, but I will never forget that, like that. It feels like a defining moment in my life. So it was totally worth it. But if you spend that money on, something, it might only last 10 years and then it's gone. You don't like, I'm not saying anything new, but yeah, I don't know. It was just, it made me realize, I think more than anything, it made me realize when you have like time off and a good amount of money, how much fucking fun you can have and like the things you can experience, the things you can do. So it really inspired me and also Megan to like get our shit together to make as much money as we can while maintaining like this lifestyle of just trying to enjoy beautiful stuff, Yeah, so to create our own jobs, make our own money, and build something that can still function when you're gone and be able to enjoy an amazing week, and not worry about like, oh, well, we can't go out to eat because like we don't have the money. Like we did cook from home a lot because we didn't want to spend all our money on food. But yeah, it was just nice to want to do something and then just do it, not really have to think about it because we knew we had the money for it. We came home with only $20 after all of it, but it was fucking worth it. So just try to think about like, if we could do that trip once a year, how much would it cost? How much would we have to save every month? How much extra would we have to work, or what can we do differently to make that like it's not a big deal? So that's kind of what we're focusing on going forward. How to enjoy life more.
Well, that sounds nice. Sounds like a nice sentiment.
Yeah.
To be more present, to round it back to the advice you got about your ceremony.
Yes, for sure. Yeah, all the bullshit involved and stuff that we're still dealing with. It doesn't seem like anything compared to the amazing moments that we did have. Like the ceremony was perfect in our minds, even though none of the decorations were there, or it was raining, or my grandma's back was in pain.
You can choose your own adventure on that one. You can either dwell on stuff that'll make you upset, or dwell on how beautiful it was.
Yeah.
To everyone who was there in the rain that day.
Yeah. Yeah, and because it was already raining, we did some photos. Like we took our shoes off and rolled our pants up and went into this creek and like took photos like in the creek you were talking about, and got some cool photos because we were already like, F it, we're already wet. Megan's dress is already destroyed on the bottom, so like let's really explore this. It was good. It was a lot of fun. I was really glad that you were there. We recorded quite a bit, and we're gonna sprinkle some things throughout the episode. But one of the funny things, I couldn't find my field recorder, which would have given us pretty good quality audio. Couldn't find it anywhere. And I found it in my bag in Kauai. It was with me the whole time, hiding in a pocket. And I just thought that was kind of funny. Like, oh,
right.
So, yeah, I don't know. I mean, that's, grazing the surface of everything. There was so much that went on.
What's your big swooping conclusion? Ultimate success?
It was a success and not one that I would want to do again, for sure.
Yeah. The moral I got from that honeymoon story was like, if you'd never had to work and had money given to you from a giant ceremony you only get to do once in your life, life is dope.
Well, I mean, there's ways that like you can replicate that, right? Like,
no, yeah, for sure. I'm picking apart the non-beautiful stuff you said, but yeah, it's just like to somebody who was just casually listening, like, so if all my family and friends gave me money and I didn't have to work for 2 weeks, and then during those 2 weeks I was in Hawaii, life is beautiful. Oh,
they're actually. I want to expand on that. We went to this music store to listen to a band, which was a lot of fun. And there was a guy who has lived on the island for a long time, knew a lot of people. He was maybe 80. He was shit-faced drunk. He came up to us while the music was playing, and he like shook our hands and started talking. And he just bought this coffee company that we went to mostly every day. It was like the Northside Social of Kauai. It was so busy, so expensive, all that stuff. He just bought it. And Megan asks, are you a businessman? Do you own a lot of companies? And he's like, mostly I just kind of walk around and look at stuff, and I'll make some art and just ponder matters of the heart. And Megan was like, sounds nice. Like, that's a good life,
Yeah.
dude.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
Can you, like, what do you do for a living? Just ponder matters of the heart. Like,
We got our episode title. There you go.
it was so
Wrap it up.
awesome, dude. Oh, God. But anyways,
Well, good for him. No, it sounds beautiful. I'm glad you had a good time.
Yeah, It was
put in-
absolutely incredible.
good. It was nice to see you, obviously.
Yeah, I'm really glad that you guys were there for that. I think I'm going to see you 5 times this year, which seems crazy.
Yeah, we'll be out in Denver, which we're very grateful that you're letting us crash for the Friday. That'll be in August, coming up here actually in about a month.
Yeah, I got to get that basement
My
ready.
wedding in September. And then Zach and I think, are going to fly out in January. So that should be good.
Yeah, it's going to be awesome. And then, not to mention the trip we did a few months ago and then just a couple weeks ago. So that's a good year for friends, for sure.
It's a solid year, yeah.
So,
like you said,
well,
good things to be focusing on, for sure.
Yeah. I want to sum up this episode with one final thought. And I'm curious how you'll follow this up after your wedding. But the wedding planning and the honeymoon planning was kind of like our focus for the past almost a year. We talked about it all the time. It was something huge, like monumental to look forward to. It was something we knew that would never happen again. And something we would have a lot of someone else's money to spend on, right? So there was like, it was just a really, really big deal. It was a really big focus. It was a big part of our lives for a year. And now that it's over, everything kind of like felt bleak. It's like, well, what do we do now? Like, that big thing was over, like, what do we think about? What do we focus on? So I think that's just a really interesting feeling. Like, you kind of sometimes get the post-vacation like depression, right? But this feels...
I mean, there's literally the phrase, the honeymoon's over, right?
Right. But so like, I don't, what do you do? Like, plan the next vacation, I guess. Like, that's kind of what I'm saying with, how do you...
Save up to get a house, have a kid, make a financial goal. I don't know. There's literally limitless possibilities. So, I mean, it's your life that you're living actively at the moment. Right. So, yeah. Talk about it, come up with a goal, and pursue it.
Yeah. Well, I'm interested to see how you feel.
Go forth and be excellent, you son of a...
Thanks, man. I'm just, I'm really curious to hear if you have the same feeling when yours is over.
I'm sure I will.
Okay. Well, there you go.
I mean, the phrase already exists. The honeymoon. I mean, when people say the honeymoon phase is over, that's not like...
Well, I always interpreted that as like...
No, it's literally...
You're not happy anymore or something. Like...
No, it's just... That chapter's that I don't know. You say it's over. Yeah, I mean, yes, I'm sure I will. And 2, B, just pick something else now. You guys are a team. Go conquer something. That's exciting. It's not sad.
All right, we're gonna make $2 million each next year. That's the goal, and then we'll have 18 kids,
like it.
And they'll run the business for us.
If you shoot for the what do they say? Something you end up with the stars. But if you don't have proper space gear, you'll suffocate and freeze to death. No, just kidding. But no, I'm being unpleasant. Yeah, you're right. I'm sure we'll talk about it when the time comes. I'm sure it's probably tough to come to terms with, but yeah, no, you have now is when the good stuff starts. And it is exciting. I'm excited for you and Megan, who is lovely, and I'm glad you two found each other.
Yeah, me too, man. For sure. Against all odds.
That's right. You should play some of that sound in between the wedding and honeymoon stories. And then you should finish the episode with my trial run of the best man speech.
Ooh, finish it with that.
Up to you.
It was a great speech, man. It was a very great speech. Very heartfelt.
I'm glad you liked it.
It meant the world to me.
Well, I'm a big fan.
Yeah.
Of your work.
Thanks, man.
Even from the early stuff.
It's so much better though. All right, man.
Yeah. You wanna call it? Yeah. Well, yeah. I love you. Congrats to you and Megan. It was lovely to be there. It was our pleasure. And I'll talk to you soon.
All right, man.
Our first episode in several years.
Right. I love you too, man.
This is the reunion tour.
All right, see ya.
All right, I'm just gonna run through it.
Okay.
And I hope he actually goes.
Oh, he'll go.
All right. All right, just making sure. Okay, so I'm just going to run through it. Give me notes. So when I was in high school, I was the senior class president, and I was impeached. And that is something that's kind of hard to explain, but I want to make clear that the story isn't about me. But the deans and the teachers made this little impeachment trial because I had left the school grounds to go eat at an Arby's or something. Like, I didn't eat lunch in the cafeteria, which was technically against school bylaws, and I wore my ill-fitting homecoming suit, and they were going to wag a finger at me and things like that. But again, this story's not about me. It's about the reason they had to stop that meeting, which was just in a regular classroom, but they wanted to treat it all serious. And again, this story is about the reason the meeting stopped, because there was a loud banging at the door and so much noise on the other side of the door that you would have thought the entire city of Erie was there, right? And just this banging and chanting and jeering and cheering. And, we all wanted, we're dying to know who's on the side. And for me, as a high school, I was like, thank goodness everyone supports me this much that they're going to, and I had assumed that everybody in my family was going to be there. And I was like this dream scenario, but, and it was a dream scenario. They opened the door and it was Tom standing there cheering like Obama era campaign slogans like "Si se puede," "Yes we can," "Woo woo woo." And I don't know if you picture like a lottery winner throwing up all the money they've won like in the air. He threw up campaign posters that I learned later he had designed for just this prank. Like there was like 3 different templates for campaign posters. And he was chanting and cheering and just this like jubilant energy of joy that was just pouring out of him. And if you know Tom, that's kind of how he operates. And they
every single day it was
right. So they kind of asked him to leave, and he did. But there was still posters taped everywhere, all over the door, everything. And he left, and they were like, "Pat, if you could just eat your lunch in the cafeteria, if you don't mind, that'd be great." And I was like, "Yeah, that's great." And I don't know if I ever told Tom this out loud, but him being there meant a lot to me. And it's better for the story and for me and my life in general that it was just one person, because that one person was Tom. And when you go through life, how often do you just wish someone's there for you on your worst day to literally have your back and break doors down? And that day, it was a distinct possibility with the amount of pounding he did on that door, just saying random campaign slogans and things like that. You only meet so many people in this world, and you only meet so many taxi drivers and people at your new job. And when you ask them where they're from, only so often do you recognize the city they say, and only so often do those people like the same movies you do, and only so often do those people become your friends. But it's pretty rare that you find somebody that is actually there on your worst day, at your back, no questions asked. And I'm just grateful that I found that person in Tom. And we stayed friends through the years, and Zach, Tom, and I, people say after high school it's hard to stay in touch with your high school friends, but for us it was easy because we wanted to and we did. So Zach and I would drive down to DC, I think, one summer in particular after our junior year of college. We went down, and for some reason it was different. And not that it was joyless, but we were, 23 is a heavy age. You've all been there. You just start thinking about the world, and you're looking at your future in the face. And not that the light had gone out of his eyes or anything, but the tone was just different. I think we all realized we were going to see each other less and less. And, I thought, I was like, I guess this is what becoming an adult is going to be. And then, I'll fast forward a couple years, and Zach had a beautiful wedding and a very fun ceremony with friends and family in Minneapolis, Minnesota, to Liz, who was very lovely, and she's here today. I talked to Tom over the phone a few times leading up to this event, and he kept talking about Megan, and he talked about her like I've never heard him talk about a girl before. It's like, I'm going to marry her. I've never heard Tom be so sure about anything. Like 2 weeks later, he's on to his
He never knows.
Yeah, exactly. And he was just like, hey, I'm going to marry her. And I think that weekend, we were just having such a good time. I don't think there was a moment in Minnesota that weekend that I looked over and Tom wasn't grinning ear to ear with that goofy high school joy spirit just spilling out of his ears.
There's nothing negative about it.
Right. And I looked at Megan, and she was grinning just as large. And I was like, wow, she figured it out. She replaced the light bulb. She dug it out of him. She brought the light out. So if there's 2 things I want to say here today, it's I'm so lucky to have met someone who literally had my back on my worst day. And I know he's going to do that for Megan tenfold, 1,000-fold. And 2, how lovely and how stupidly obvious that they should be together, that she's the person that can bring that light out of him, literally drag it from the depths of his soul on his birthday. It's just a very special, stupidly obvious thing. And cheers to the happy couple.
Note, do not remove stupid from that. Do not remove that, because it's what it is, man.
Did it die?
It's okay.
Oh, no, it didn't. So that's what I'm going to lay down, I think, tomorrow.
Good.
All right. Goodbye, everybody.
Oh my God, dude. Forgot to mention, you almost lost Megan's wedding ring mere minutes before the ceremony. Do you remember that?
Yeah, that's true. That's actually true. You definitely saw that look of fear in my eye. I'm sure you did. And I just lifted a pillow and it was there, but there was full 4.5 minutes of
couldn't find the
utter
ring.
panic. It was bad. Now I was like, there's no way. Oh, God.